Yes, now it is.
So is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
So let's start with the topic. Now coming to the definition of domestic violence, first of all, before that I would like to tell you that, as you know, whenever someone speaks of domestic violence, the first word that comes to our mind is wives, because it's always about husband and wife, they're fighting, and what goes on within themselves in that shared household that leads to domestic violence. But that is cause of the initial researches that were conducted in India, that it was said that only can be the victim of domestic violence, but it is not so. There can be various other victims to domestic violence as well. Well, we'll be discussing that later. Before that, let's come to the definition of domestic violence, which is according to the Domestic Violence Act 2005. So, domestic violence in India includes any form of violence suffered by a person from a biological relative, but typically is the violence suffered by a woman by male members of a family or relatives. So, as you can see here also, there is no word as marriage or men. So, a man or it is not about only marriage that domestic violence occurs, and neither men can be a victim to domestic violence. So let me go to a graph where you can understand the definition better. So this definition is given according to your Domestic Violence Act 2005. So first it states, any act or omission or conduct of the respondent shall constitute domestic violence in case it. Here first of all I would like to say who is a respondent. Now, the person who is suffering from domestic violence is said to be the aggrieved person, and the person who is making such act or conduct or omission which leads to domestic violence is known as the respondent. So here the four cases under which domestic violence comes are: first one, harms or injures or endangers the health, safety, life, limb or well-being or mental or physical of the aggrieved or tends to do so, and includes causing physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal and emotional abuse and economic abuse. So these are the four kinds of abuse. If done by the respondent, then it leads to domestic violence. Now let me explain all these four abuses. First of all, physical abuse. Now this is any conduct or act or omission done by the respondent which causes bodily pain, injury or any fracture to the limb, etc. Bodily pain is important. Now sexual abuse. This is the conduct of the respondent which is sexual in nature and degrades or humiliates the dignity of a woman. Now sexual abuse. Now verbal and emotional abuse. Now verbal and emotional abuse is any kind of humiliation that a woman suffers or the aggrieved suffers. Now before that, the word wives comes into our mind when we talk of domestic violence. Now this was later substituted by the word woman, because it was seen that not only married but unmarried women also do suffer. So here you can assume that living relationships are also taken into account. Now coming to the next, economic abuse. Economic abuse is any abuse that is undergone by the aggrieved when she is not entitled to the financial assistance that she should be entitled. Now depriving her of any of such assistance that has to come from the husband share or the respondent here, then that is known as economic abuse. Second, harasses, harms, injures or endangers the aggrieved person with a view to coerce her or other person related to her to make any unlawful demand for any dowry or other property or valuable security. Now first of all, this bit also comes under your Dowry Prohibition Act. Still then it is here because to meet a broader side. Now if the respondent threatens or harasses the woman, saying that he might again physically harm the person she loves, the woman loves or the aggrieved person loves, then that is also known as domestic violence. To meet any kind of demand Like, for example, my husband or any other person related to her, or any relative or anyone staying with us here presently in my shared household, threatens me to get something from my parents' house or from somewhere else, or from my account, some financial or monetary benefits which I refuse to give. And on refusing, they threaten to physically harm a person whom I love, may it be my father, may it be my mother, then that also constitutes your domestic violence. Now, third bit has the effect of threatening the aggrieved person or any other person related to her by any conduct mentioned in clause A and B. A and B were till now talking about respondent and aggrieved person, but now in third clause, in clause C, it says that any person related to the aggrieved, if suffers from the same A or B, then also it is said to be domestic violence. Now the fourth bit is, if otherwise injures or causes harm, whether physical or mental, to the aggrieved person. Any statement or word that does not describe the domestic violence that is being suffered by a aggrieved, which is not mentioned here in A, B or C, can also be included in domestic violence if it directly or indirectly causes physical or mental harm to the aggrieved person. So let's move to the next one. So here in toto we can say domestic violence includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional and verbal abuse, economic abuse. Now the lines that we could interpret from these that are not directly stated are: first, only a female can be a victim according to the statutes in India, whereas it should not happen because there are other kinds of victims that we'll shortly talk about. Now the next, adult males who have been in a domestic relationship with the aggrieved woman and male and female relatives of the husband, male partner, can be made the respondent. Now in case of victim, it is only the woman. Only women can become the victim. But in case of respondent, it's not always the male only. The relatives of the male, may it be male or may it be female, can be a respondent. So in case of respondent, it can be both. But there are some restrictions for a woman. Because when the magistrate orders few orders, protection order, residence order, etc., that we'll be talking about, then in those cases, those orders are restricted towards the female respondent, but they are not to the male respondent. Next, live-in relationships are also protected, as I've already said, because there is no word mentioned about marriage or exactly partner, you can say, but if two words are necessary, one is domestic relationship and the second one is a shared household. If you are in a domestic relationship, you are sharing a shared household, you are living together with the respondent, the aggrieved and the respondent are living together. May it be along with some other members, may it be your own property or not, maybe it a tenanted house, maybe you are in rent somewhere else where you are being employed, but you are sharing the rent. All these are included in a shared household. Now moving to victims of domestic violence. Now these are the victims that has not been stated under your Domestic Violence Act 2005, but should have been. It is elsewhere in other legislations across the world. These words have also been included, which is still lacking in our Indian statutes. That is battered husbands, battered wives, battered women held in captivity. Now battered means people those who are suffering repeatedly from domestic violence. Cohabiting violence, dating violence, domestic violence in workplace. Now this domestic violence in workplace is also referred to in other statutes, that it has a separate statute of its own. Now spousal prostitution, stalking, intimate partner violence. Now from where does all this arise? These arises from the word equality. Because in India it has always been stated that the dominant trait is always going to exploit the weaker section. So in order to exploit the weaker section, we both do all these things like injure someone or abuse someone or physically abuse or emotionally abuse. Why we do all this? If there was equality over here, then this all would not have happened. Because we do not have equality, even in the laws, as you can see here, the aggrieved constitutes of only female part and not the male counterpart, whereas even husbands are victims of domestic violence, but it has not been stated here. So equality should first be shown in the laws and then in the household. So coming to the next. Now these are the other directly or indirectly related laws to domestic violence. Now the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Now this law is the one, this convention is the one due to which our statute, that is Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act 2005, came up. On an declaration from the CEDAW, our 2005 DV Act came up. Now the others like Commission on Status of Women, CRPC 120, even under, if it is proved that domestic violence is in, you can the agreement be ordered to get maintenance from CRPC 125, IPC 498A, which includes cruelty, which is a part of domestic violence as well. So that is also dealt under IPC. And even when you go to file a domestic incident report, that is, you say FIR, in this case it is DIR. If you are going to a police station, it's still FIR. But if you are going to a protection officer or some NGOs or any service providers, or you are approaching any helpline, then in that case it is known as domestic incident report. When you report your suffering of domestic violence, that is known as domestic incident report. So where was I? Sorry. Then they refer to IPC 498A if you are going to a police station or you are informing any police officer about it. Then they will report it under IPC 498A. But if you are going for DIR, then they will refer to the other laws relating to domestic violence. Now, even if the demand, unlawful demand, is for dowry, then it comes under Dowry Prohibition Act. And Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act, that we'll be describing briefly. Then Hindu Succession Act, which stated that now the girls can also be the equal co-partners in their parents' property. Then the Equal Remuneration Act, that stated that both the male and the female should be entitled to equal remuneration for equal work, equal pay, equal work. Now the Equal Remuneration Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. Now children can also be a victim. If it is so, and if the offence is sexual, then this act is to be referred, which is also a kind of domestic violence, because the children is not going to get sexually offended only outside the shared household. It is also that these kind of things take place inside your houses. Now coming to the Domestic Violence Act in specific, it is a civil law, but criminal reliefs are given. That is why it is always said that this act tends to move from civil to criminal. We cannot exactly say that this is a civil law. It is a civil law. It is both a civil as well as a criminal law because of the criminal reliefs it gives. We'll be discussing about the reliefs. Then the act is prospective, but implementation of the act is retrospective. Now NGOs and service providers can be acknowledged in that act. Now in this act, it says that any NGO, any association or any voluntary association or society that comes up, registers itself under the Society Registration Act, then in such cases it will be entitled for the implementation of this act under section 10 of this act. So if you go through section 10 of this act, you'll find that even the service providers and the NGOs can take up your domestic violence cases and handle it further, along with the protection officer and the magistrate. Now next, the domestic violence is cognizable offence and non-bailable under this act too. Now ways out for a victim under Domestic Violence Act. Now this you should listen very carefully, because this is what everyone should know. Now these are the 5 ways out for you if you are suffering from domestic violence. Not only you, if someone else is suffering, even you can do the needful for him or her. Sorry, it's always for her only. Now the first, police station. Second, protection officer, judicial magistrate, service provider and helplines. Now first come to police station. If you are going to a police station, if the aggrieved goes to a police station, then the first thing that they will be asking about is a medical examination. If you have done that, then they will be registering your FIR as soon as possible. But if you haven't done that, then they will be asked, then the opposite party will be called. That is the respondent. Now on calling that, if after examining, after investigating, it comes or it finds satisfied itself that domestic violence has been taking place, then only it will register your FIR, that too under 498A of IPC only. Now next, if the aggrieved opts for the help of protection officer on receiving a domestic violence complaint, makes a domestic incident report to the magistrate and its copies to police in charge and service providers in that area. Now on receiving a complaint, what protection officer first does is, he makes a domestic incident report, he sends it to the magistrate, then the copies are sent to the police station or the police in charge in that area. Now which magistrate and which police station? Magistrate should be your either first class magistrate or metropolitan magistrate, that too in the jurisdiction where the aggrieved is staying, where the respondent is staying, or where the aggrieved is employed, or where the respondent is employed, or where the incident has taken place, that is any of the abuses or the domestic violence has taken place. So any of these places, in any of these jurisdictions, as said, the prescribed magistrate can be referred to, or the protection officer of that place, or the police station of that place. Now then the aggrieved is medically examined. Now who does this? The protection officer takes you for the medical examination. Now then he gives the application to the magistrate for reliefs if required. Now there are 5 kinds of reliefs that we'll be discussing. Now if you are in need of any of those reliefs, then the protection officer will ask you, and if you are in requirement of any of that, even if you need more than one reliefs, then also you can apply for more than one reliefs, and then the protection officer will accordingly in the prescribed format send the requirement of reliefs to the magistrate, then provide free legal aid under the Legal Services Authorities Act 1987. Now under this act it has been stated that if a woman is unable to bear the expenses of her legal services, then that will be provided free of cost under this act. So even for that the protection officer will help you. Next, if the aggrieved person opts to go to judicial magistrate, if I directly move to the judicial magistrate, or the aggrieved directly moves to the judicial magistrate on receiving a complaint, either the aggrieved person can move, or on his behalf the protection officer can move, or any other relative of yours can also move. If the aggrieved is unable to go out of the house or talk to anyone, then may it be a neighbor, may it be his family members, may it be her family members, anyone can on her behalf move to the magistrate or protection officer as well. Then the protection officer can also move to the magistrate. Now any person on behalf of the aggrieved can move to the magistrate seeking for help or relief. Now considering that, first what the magistrate does is, he first inquires that whether any other domestic incident report has been registered under the name of that person or not. If it is registered, then it takes into account that DIR. And if it is not registered, then it registers there itself. Then the magistrate shall fix the first date of hearing, that should not be ordinarily beyond 3 days of receipt of that complaint. And it is also disposed within a tenure of 60 days from the receipt of the DIR. Now if the aggrieved opts for service providers, as I said, any voluntary association that has been registered under the Societies Registration Act, they are considered as service providers. May it be an NGO, may it be any other private organization or society, etc. But it has to be registered. Now then, they first, if the aggrieved goes to them, then they first record your domestic incident report, then they forward a copy to the magistrate and the protection officer. They get the aggrieved person medically examined, forward a copy of medical report to the protection officer and the police station, as the others too do. Then ensure that the aggrieved person is provided shelter in a shelter home if she requires so. If she has no house of her own in that jurisdiction and she used to live with the respondent in the same shared household, then if she now is not interested to live with that person, then he can arrange, the service provider has that capacity of arranging shelter homes for that aggrieved person if she so wants. Otherwise, if she is still interested to live with the respondent, then that can also happen. And if she wants to live in that shared household and she wants the respondent to be out of that home, then that can also happen. It completely depends on the aggrieved person's mindset, what she wants, what she demands. Now forward a report of the lodging of the aggrieved person. If such person is taking a shelter home, then that has also to be reported to the police station in that jurisdiction where the shelter home is, or the where the DIR has been lodged. Now coming to the helplines, I think you should note down these. These can be helpful for you as well as for someone else whom you would like to help. Now the Central Social Welfare Board Police Helpline, the Odisha Police Helpline. Now these are all comes under your, the first one is for center, the second one is your state helpline. Now as soon as you call any of these, they will be sending you to the protection officer of the jurisdiction you are in. And then as stated, if you opt for a protection officer, the procedure that the protection officer follows, that will be followed. Now this is a graph that shows that these are the 5 ways out for you or the aggrieved if suffering from domestic violence. As said earlier, police station, protection officer, judicial magistrate, helpline, service provider. Now rights of the aggrieved person. Unless you know what the rights are, when you are in such a situation, you won't be able to tackle it. So let's go through the rights of the aggrieved person. The first one, right to reside in the shared household. Your shared household may be a home for both of you, for the respondent and for the aggrieved, and many other people may be staying in that. But once you are tagged with this word aggrieved, then you are entitled to live maybe alone also in that shared household. If you say that you don't feel safe with all of them, then they all will be ordered to move out. Shelter homes won't be provided to them. It will be provided only to the aggrieved if she wants. If she doesn't want, then she alone can stay in the shared household, and the others will be ordered to leave that shared household. Now protection order in favor of the aggrieved person. Now protection order is protection from that respondent. It directly means that you feeling unsafe, there is a threat of domestic violence, so you are unable to stay with that person, so that person will be ordered by the magistrate to stay away from you. Do not to visit the place of your employment, not to visit the place where you are staying, not to visit your parents. Now this is what protection order is. Residence orders to be issued against the respondent as to whether not he may stay. Now residence order is when you are interested in residing in that shared household which you used to share with the respondent, then he will be ordered to reside somewhere else. That is residence order. May it be a tenanted house, may it be a house where your employment is, may it be a house where in-laws house is, all that comes under your residence orders. But the respondent will have to leave any of such houses that is referred to by the aggrieved on her demand, or if only if the magistrate allows or agrees that yes, domestic violence has taken place and the aggrieved has applied for any of the orders, then only the relief will be provided. Then monetary relief. Now monetary relief is something if you want from your husband. Now if your living standard is not as such as was before the occurrence of domestic violence or after leaving that shared household, then to come up to that mark or the standard in which you were living, to make it same as you were living with that respondent, the respondent is liable to pay you the rest. Now if he was paying the rent of the shared household But now you apply for a residence order that you will be staying in that home now. Now what will be done? The protection order will inform him to stay away from that shared household, but he was paying the rent. Now what do? You are unemployed, but this monetary relief you can ask for that amount, that rental amount. If you have a child, the child's expenses and other household, for other household chores also, the money that you needed was earlier, if it was earlier being sent by that respondent, then now also it will be sent by the respondent only. So for all that you can ask for monetary relief. Now full custody of children may be given to the victim with visiting hours for the respondent. Now the aggrieved is entitled to the custody of the children in any such cases, in any of these abuses cases or domestic violence case, in one word, as you can see. But respondent can be given visiting hours to meet the child only if the magistrate deems fit. If there is any threat to the mother or the partner or the female partner whatsoever or the child, then the magistrate won't allow for visiting hours. If there is no such threat, then only visiting hours will be allowed for. Now penalty to respondent for not following orders. Now penalty to protection officer for not taking action. These two penalties are same. If any of these happens, then in both cases the imprisonment will be up to 1 year and the fine will be up to 20,000, or even both can be, or even they can be penalized with both. So let's move to the next. Now there is always a ray of hope, even in our legislations, even in most of the Indian legislations, may it be divorce, may it be any other thing, may it be judicial separation whatsoever, there is always a ray of hope given by the courts. Now this is the same. During any period of the proceedings, whenever the magistrate deems fit, can apply for counseling. Now any of the protection officer or any of the service provider who is apt to counsel any of these, the respondent or the aggrieved, or maybe both of them together, if there is no threat of both of them to come together, then in such cases the magistrate can order for a joint session of counseling with any service provider or any protection officer, and this shall be done within a period not extending, where the magistrate has issued any direction for counseling, he shall fix the next date of hearing of the case within a period not exceeding 2 months. Now as you have heard, from the date of receipt of the complaint, within 3 days the first hearing is to be done. Then within 16 days of the date of first hearing, the decision has to be taken. Now if counseling comes in between, then 2 months can be spared for that, according to the DV Act 2005. Now coming to the next. Now protection order, these are the reliefs that I was talking about earlier. These are the rights of the aggrieved as well as the only reliefs that can be provided, and all these can be provided only with the help of the magistrate. Now coming to protection order. Now this order prohibits the respondent from committing any act of domestic violence, aiding or abetting the commission of acts. Now we are running short of time, so let me just go through in a speedy manner. Now protection orders, as I have said earlier, this will protect the respondent to go or move to any of the places where the aggrieved is, either employed or the parent's house or any shared household that where she is living alone or with her child. Next, residence order. This is just to restrain the respondent from disposing or disturbing the properties of the aggrieved. Now directing the respondent to remove himself. And as you know, as I said earlier, whatever the aggrieved wants, if the aggrieved is interested to stay alone, then the respondent is ordered to stay away from that shared household. And accordingly, whatever the aggrieved wants relating to the residence where she was staying, that will be ordered to the respondent. Now, order for monetary relief, as I have just said, the aggrieved can ask for monetary relief for the loss of earnings, for the medical expenses, for the loss caused due to destruction, damage, or removal of any property that has been done by the respondent. If the respondent, as discussed in the previous order, in the residence order, if he destroys any of the property of the woman, may it be throwing away her clothes, etc., or her jewelry, or whatever it is, he'll have to pay for everything that he has destroyed, that is related or that is owned by the aggrieved. Now, coming to custody order, if they have a child of their own or maybe adopted, or they were under foster care, or any legal guardian, any child whose legal guardian they were, then in those cases the aggrieved will only be entitled to the custody of the child, and that too temporarily till the aggrieved wants, provided there is no, and visiting hours will be provided only if there is no threat from the respondent side. Now, compensation order, directing the respondent to pay compensation and damages for injuries including mental torture, emotional distress caused by the acts of domestic violence committed by the respondent. Now, the emotional stress that she goes through, even for that she can ask for compensation. Interim and ex parte orders. Now, all these orders that we were talking about, may it be protection order, residence order, custodial order, etc., all these orders are given on interim and ex parte orders basis. Now, the protection order, only the protection order can be discharged on demand by the aggrieved person. Now, I am applying for a protection order has been granted, then till it will be granted, till I discharge it, till I say that no, I am safe now, so you can remove the protection order. So then only the protection order will be removed, and the rest of the orders will be discharged or are temporary orders, or the period as fixed in the order will be carried out. Now, these are the understudied areas. We don't have enough time to go through all these, so you can just note these down. These are the areas relating to domestic violence that no one has undergone a research till date in India, but these need to be taken up for research work.
Ma'am, sorry to